and sometimes it takes a second or two for all the live stream platforms to get going. But today is a new segment I like to call So since a few years ago, I kind of had seen the light and realized that leaders are readers, and I wanted to be a leader. So I went from reading about a dozen books a year to now, I mean, anywhere between. I mean, last year I set a goal. I set a goal to read 72 books. I missed it, but I read 62 books. Year before, I set a goal to read 60 books. I hit 50 or 51. So this year, I haven't set a number yet, but I just finished my first book. And I talked about this on a previous live stream. And this book is incredible. This book is flipping awesome. And if I were on another platform, I might have used another word. But let's see if I can get it on the screen. So Patrick Bet-David, he's an entrepreneur. He was born in Tehran. His family had to leave because of the war, and the first 15 minutes will blow your socks off. I listened to the audiobook. Audiobook is awesome. He reads it. I love it when authors read their own work, and it's just really passionate. I might actually get the print book too. Patrick, if you are watching this, if you were to make a workbook, because there's a lot of lists and steps like that that's related to this, I would buy that in a heartbeat. I might buy the print book just to kind of list it out or listen to it again. I mean, I'm probably going to listen to this book at least another 2 times, maybe this month. I don't know, but it is an incredibly awesome book. Stop what you're doing, pick up the audiobook. If you're into audiobooks. If you absolutely hate audiobooks, that's fine. If you go to thedatadrivenbook.com, you'll get a free audiobook on Data Driven, my podcast. And we get it, helps support the show and all that. If you already have an Audible account, yeah, not much I can do for you. But let me tell you, man, this book will change your mind on a lot of things. I had been kind of following him kind of low key. He has a YouTube channel called Valuetainment. So let me kick that off on YouTube. Value. Hey, look, there I am. Attainment. And he has I mean, this stuff is just good. Like, his channel is pretty awesome. He interviews everyone from Kobe Bryant to former mobsters and former FBI agents. He's inspiring. That's why I like him. He's very inspiring. I really should probably go back and like listen to every episode of his podcast and stuff like that. He shoots off the cuff. I like him. He's got a pretty relatable style. He's not as kind of hardcore as Grant Cardone, at least in your face. He's definitely much more low key, but I kind of like that. He reminds me of a lot of people I knew growing up in New York, although he's from LA. But like he reminds me of a lot of people like that. Like he's kind of like he was interesting because in his 20s he talks about how he was always clubbing and partying, and he kind of had this moment where he realized he needed to get his life together. I don't know. I like it. I think it's really good stuff. He talks about his experience. He was in the Army for a while. He got into sales. Yeah, TubeBuddy. Compared to him, my YouTube channel is just flatline. But this is a plugin called TubeBuddy, which will analyze anytime you go to a YouTube video, it'll analyze kind of all the metrics and stuff like that. But I have a 10 o'clock team meeting. But seriously, stop what you're doing. Pick up this book. If you're into audiobooks, you don't have an Audible account, dude, what is wrong? Dude and dudettes. I mean, Audible has changed my life. I mean, I would say that of the 70, oh, not 70, 61 books, 62 books I read this year, probably about 30, 40 of them were Audible books. Um, and what's cool about Patrick Bet David's book is he references kind of his path from going from kind of party kid to a serious entrepreneur, and all the books he read along the way. So and he actually does have a website. So let's see what we got here. Your next. Always 5moves.com. I haven't looked at this yet. So maybe there is a workbook. Maybe there is like a free PDF or whatever. Resources. Solve for X worksheet. This is pretty cool. This talks about strategy and stuff like that. But I mean, if you really want to rock out 2021, this is awesome. And he does talk about getting clarity, strategy, growth tactics, skills, insights. I mean, it's just incredible. Like, and this guy knows how to market and sell. Like, he's got a lot of interesting stuff, and he's kind of famous, I guess. But he's definitely so he does have some resources here, but I wish he had a workbook where it'd be like, 20 days to your next 5 moves or something like that. And you just like go through it. I mean, just a little tip for you there, Mr. Bet David. But keep on rocking. I actually have, I don't know where my phone is, but he actually, well, you can subscribe to like an SMS list, and he'll kind of like tweet videos and stuff like that and let you know what he's going on. I don't have that number handy, but I'm sure if we find it, I'm sure if you dig around here enough, you'll find it. But yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to share. My next book, actually, I'm going to read. I'm in the middle of another Napoleon Hill book, but he recommended this. This came up in my recommended list on Amazon. So good Mr. Bezos recommend, or his bots, or in particular, recommended this book, as did Patrick Bet David in the other book. It does seem pretty interesting, and he makes a case for basically how the top people are just a little bit manic. And I think if you look at somebody like Steve Jobs, late Steve Jobs, he was definitely extraordinary. And what made him extraordinary was his rather eccentric and unusual behavior, I suppose. But if you look at anyone who really wants to challenge the status quo, who really wants to move the needle of not just their company, but kind of like of the world, get into history books, I think is a term that Patrick used. You got to be just a little crazy. So this is probably going to be my next book. I'm finishing up Napoleon Hill book. Napoleon Hill, if you haven't heard of him, he wrote Think and Grow Rich, which is probably what he's best known for. But apparently he wrote a ton of other books. Let's see if we can leverage Amazon. Yeah, he wrote a ton of other books, and there's been a lot of other books that kind of come through this. There one that I finished last month was How to Own Your Own Mind. This was really good. I think he wrote it in the 40s, but I think the lessons in it are as valid today as they were then. Arguably, I would say maybe even more. And this is the one I'm currently in the middle of, Master Key to Riches. It's pretty interesting. So there's a finite. I get a lot of riffing from some folks, unfortunately, who say, "Why do you read so much?" Well, one, I took a speed reading course. So let me back up. When I was in school, I despised reading. I freaking hated it until my parents forced me to take a speed reading course that my high school was offering. I kicked and screamed, and eventually I was kind of won over by the idea, because they forced me. But they taught me how to speed read. And let me tell you, I went from being kind of like someone who hated reading to someone that, when you speed read, there's a bunch of tips and techniques. Maybe if you're interested, let me know in the comments. I can kind of talk about some tactics I use. But if you let me maximize, if you kind of read more than one word at a time, like kind of chunk it by 3 words, you can get a pretty big bang for your buck. One of the things that does take time to adapt, takes a week or two, maybe a month, where you do lose retention, right? But I noticed right away. Just I remember studying for a history quiz, and I didn't do the reading the night before, like I should have. So on the bus and the subway to school, I read the article. I sped read the article twice, and or the reading assignment twice. In the hallway before the quiz, I sped read it a third time. I got a perfect score on the quiz. And I made an observation, I guess, even at like age 15 or so, I was a budding data scientist, that if I read the same article, even if I only got half the retention, if I read it 3 times, I got the gist of the article and I passed the test. Now, unfortunately, I didn't weaponize that. I kind of let it weaponize me, or my procrastination got the better of me. So I would always hold off reading assignments till like the last possible minute, which is the last thing you want to do. And it wasn't until after college I really got into reading again, where I would read about technology books. Technology books are hard to speed read. I will say that. But the good news is if you can if you can read faster on a technology book, when you get to a normal book or a book not about technology, if you kind of build your muscles doing that, your mental muscles doing that, everything else is easy. So a lot of these sales business strategies are mostly what I do. Now, again, since I do so many audiobooks, I've gotten used to, whether it's training on like Pluralsight or LinkedIn or Udemy, I tend to watch stuff at 2 times the speed. With audiobooks, if I'm not driving, I'll do 2, sometimes 2.5 the speed. If I'm driving, I'll do somewhere between 1 to 1.5, maybe. But but still, even if you're just not comfortable with listening at something a little faster, just try 10%, because you know what? Who wouldn't like more time in a day, right? 10% gives you 10% back, right? So if you spend an hour, you get an hour and 6 minutes. Doesn't sound like a lot. Over the course of a year, though, 10%, 10% adds up. 10% of 365 is 36 and a half days. And that, my friends, is nothing to sneeze at. So I have a meeting at 10 a.m. sharp East, and it is 9:59. So I'm going to drop off here and wish you all a great day. Maybe I'll stream later. I do have a new kind of camera setup I want to test out, but I do need to do some research. So maybe I'll just bite the bullet and just go ahead with messy imperfect action. But that's it for me. I do have to hop on my call. You have a fantastic day. Stop what you're doing. Pick up the Next 5 Move books. If you don't have an Audible account, go to thedatadrivenbook.com. It'll bounce you over to Audible. We'll get a kickback from and a blessing and help support the show. Thanks for watching, and let me know in the comments. I didn't see any comments come in, but I do see some people watching. Thanks for watching live. Thanks for watching later. Drop a note in a comment. I always do read or reply. I always read all the comments, and I always try to reply or react. So thank you very much, and have a fantastic Wednesday. It is Wednesday, right? Yeah.